Welcome to TerrorHawk Recap, where movies are transformed into intense, cinematic storytelling that hits you in minutes. Today's film is Godzilla Minus One, a devastating post-war survival story where humanity is already at its lowest point. And then something far worse rises from the ocean. Set in a broken Japan after World War II, the story follows a former kamikaze pilot haunted by guilt and failure, who suddenly finds himself facing a new nightmare, a monstrous force of nature known as Godzilla. So buckle up, because this is not just a monster movie. This is Godzilla Minus One. The movie opens with the dying embers of World War II in 1945. A Japanese fighter pilot, Koichi Shikishima, feigns a mechanical failure to land his plane on Oto Island, seeking an escape from his duty. The lead mechanic, Sasaku Tachibana, inspects the aircraft and delivers a chilling verdict: the plane is flawless. Caught in a lie of cowardice, Koichi reacts with sharp, defensive anger before retreating into the shadows of the night. Terror strikes under the cover of darkness. An emergency siren pierces the air as a prehistoric nightmare, Godzilla, emerges from the surf. The garrison is paralyzed. They are soldiers trained for war, not monsters. As the creature storms the beach, Tachibana screams for Koichi to use the plane's heavy 20mm cannons. Koichi climbs into the cockpit, but as he stares into the cold, reptilian eyes of the beast, he freezes. His finger refuses to pull the trigger. The hesitation is fatal. The other soldiers open fire with useless small arms, only to provoke the beast's wrath. Godzilla tears through the camp, crushing men like insects. Koichi flees the cockpit just before Godzilla seizes the plane in its jaws, slamming it into the earth. The explosion tosses Koichi into unconsciousness. Morning reveals a landscape of gore. Koichi awakens to find Tachibana standing amidst a field of corpses, the only other survivor. Tachibana does not offer comfort. He brands Koichi with the blood of their comrades, blaming his cowardice for the massacre. Koichi returns to a Tokyo that has been firebombed into a wasteland of ash. His neighbor, Sumiko, greets him not with a welcome, but with the bitter news that his parents are dead, their home a grave. In this hollow existence, Koichi encounters Noriko, a woman fleeing through the ruins with a child named Akiko, a baby she rescued from a dying mother's arms. Despite his own trauma, Koichi cannot turn them away. A year passes in a fragile, makeshift domesticity. Driven by the need to provide for a family he feels he doesn't deserve, Koichi accepts a high-risk government contract. The mission: clearing volatile naval mines from the ocean floor. It is a suicide mission for most, but for a man haunted by the ghosts of Oto Island, it is a way to buy a future for Noriko and Akiko with blood money. This page increases the tension significantly. I have focused on the irony of their peaceful life being built on a lie, and the sheer horror of Godzilla's evolved power. Koichi attempts to soothe Noriko's fears, promising that the government's advanced equipment will keep him safe. It is a hollow promise. Upon arrival, the crew discovers they have been deceived. The advanced fleet consists of a wooden tugboat and rusted surplus gear. Here, Koichi meets Kenji Noda, a former naval engineer, and the rest of a skeptical crew. They are the forgotten men of a broken empire, tasked with the world's most dangerous janitorial work. Under Noda's leadership, the crew begins the grueling process of clearing mines. When the young crewman Akitsu fails to detonate a floating mine with rifle fire, Koichi takes the weapon. With the cold precision of a trained pilot, he destroys the target in a single shot. His skill earns their respect, but his eyes remain haunted. For a brief window, life mimics a dream. Koichi, Noriko, and Akiko build a modest home, a sanctuary amidst the rubble. During a dinner with the crew, the men jokingly refer to Noriko as Koichi's wife. The laughter dies when she corrects them, and Koichi bluntly explains their tragic arrangement: three strangers bound together by the ash of Tokyo. The status quo shifts further when Noriko announces she has found work in Ginza. She seeks independence, leaving Akiko in the care of their neighbor, Sumiko. The fragile peace shatters at sea. The crew discovers the mangled wreckage of a heavy cruiser, its steel hull twisted like paper. As the ocean surface becomes carpeted with the bloated carcasses of deep-sea fish, Koichi's blood runs cold. He recognizes the omen from Oto Island. He screams for a retreat, but the water erupts. Godzilla has returned, larger, mutated, and far more malevolent. The crew desperately deploys a massive naval mine, but the beast's hide is impenetrable. When a second mine's detonator fails, Koichi is forced to confront his past. He climbs onto the deck and fires directly into the monster's maw, triggering a massive explosion. For a moment, the beast's jaw is a ruin of flesh, but the crew watches in horror as the cells knit back together instantly. A heavy Japanese cruiser arrives to intervene, but it is a slaughter. Godzilla dives beneath the vessel. heaving the massive ship into the air with terrifying strength. Enraged by the resistance, the monster reveals its new, ultimate evolution, a concentrated beam of atomic heat. In a blinding flash of blue light, the cruiser is vaporized. The shockwave tosses the tiny tugboat like a toy, leaving Koichi broken and unconscious as the monster's roar echoes across the deep. Back in the ruins of their home, Noriko tends to Koichi's wounds. The physical pain is nothing compared to the confession he finally pours out, the secret of Odo Island. He admits his cowardice, claiming his failure to fire cost his comrades their lives. He is a man living a ghost's life, wishing he had died in the dirt in 1945. Noriko holds him, whispering that his survival must have a purpose, but the universe offers a cruel answer. The sirens wail again. Godzilla has reached the heart of Ginza. In the city, the nightmare is total. Noriko's train is hoisted into the air by the monster's jaws like a toy. She barely escapes a crushing death by leaping into the dark waters below. As she joins the panicked masses fleeing through the streets, Koichi finds her. They run together, but the Japanese military's intervention only seals their fate. The tanks fire, and in response, Godzilla's dorsal fins glow with a malevolent blue light. The resulting atomic blast is a vision of hell. In a final, selfless act, Noriko shoves Koichi into an alleyway just as the shockwave hits. When the black rain begins to fall and the smoke clears, the street is gone. Noriko is gone. Standing in the center of a scorched wasteland, Koichi's grief curdles into a raw, screaming rage. He no longer fears the monster, he hates it. Driven by a singular need for vengeance, Koichi joins a private task force of veterans led by Noda. The government has failed, it is up to the civilians to save what remains. Noda reveals Operation Watatsumi, a plan to wrap Godzilla in Freon tanks to sink him 1,500 meters deep, letting the ocean's pressure crush him. If that fails, they will use high-pressure balloons to drag him back up, killing him through rapid decompression. But the plan requires a lure, a pilot to lead the beast into the trap. Koichi seeks out the only man who knows his shame, Sasaku Tachibana. The mechanic still looks at Koichi with eyes full of contempt, but Koichi doesn't flinch. He asks for a plane, not for escape, but for a chance to finally finish the battle that started on Odo Island. He offers Tachibana a chance for justice, and together, they begin to forge the weapon that will either save Japan or be Koichi's funeral pyre. Tachibana agrees to the mission, and the two men, once divided by shame, now work with a singular, feverish purpose. In a hidden hangar, Tachibana restores a sleek, experimental Shinden fighter. Meanwhile, Noda and the veteran crews arm their vessels with miles of cable and massive Freon tanks. The stage is set for a final stand. The fleet moves into position. To draw the beast, they broadcast the low-frequency distress calls of the Odo Island creature. It works. Annoyed by the phantom sounds, Godzilla emerges and begins a direct path toward the coast. Koichi streaks across the sky, buzzing the monster's head to provoke it. Like a matador leading a bull, he draws Godzilla away from the innocent and into the deep, open water where the trap awaits. Operation Watatsumi begins. On Noda's command, the ships encircle the monster, releasing a torrent of Freon gas. The water loses its buoyancy, and the king of monsters plunges into the abyss, dragged down to the crushing depth of 1,500 meters. The pressure is immense, but Godzilla's will is stronger, he survives the descent. Noda immediately pivots to Plan B. High-pressure balloons inflate, dragging the beast upward at violent speeds. The rapid decompression tears at Godzilla's flesh, but as he breaches the surface, he is still alive, and he is glowing with a murderous blue light. As Godzilla prepares to vaporize the entire fleet with a final heat ray, Koichi sees his moment. Haunted by the faces of his fallen comrades and the memory of Noriko, he dives his plane into a vertical scream. He doesn't freeze this time. He steers the explosives-laden aircraft directly into the monster's open maw. The Shinden strikes with the force of a falling star, and the resulting explosion shatters Godzilla's head from the inside out. The fleet watches in a stunned, mournful silence, believing Koichi has sacrificed himself to end the nightmare. But a white canopy blossoms in the sky. Tachibana had secretly installed an ejection seat, giving the pilot the one thing he never thought he'd have, a future. On the surface, the headless colossus of Godzilla disintegrates into glowing fragments, sinking back into the dark womb of the ocean. Returning to the base a hero, Koichi is met with a telegram from Sumiko that defies all logic. He rushes to the hospital with Akiko to find Noriko, scarred, bandaged, but miraculously alive. As they embrace, the war finally ends for Koichi. But beneath the waves, the cycle of horror refuses to break. A discarded fragment of Godzilla's flesh begins to pulse with a faint, rhythmic glow, regenerating in the darkness. The monster is gone, but the nightmare is merely waiting. And that is the end of Godzilla Minus One. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe to TerrorHawk Recap, and press the bell icon so you never miss our next movie breakdown. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.